Hello, I'm Sam Bruce. I'm Head of Housing and Communities at the Centre for Social Justice. Today, we're launching a new report entitled Levying Up, Ensuring Planning Reform Delivers Affordable Homes. This report is being launched today as a topical issue because of the progress of the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill. We're focused specifically on one aspect of this bill, which is called the infrastructure levy. It's a major and quite radical reform to the way in which affordable housing is funded in the UK. As you can see from this table of contents, the report is divided into three parts. In part one, we address the question of why. Why does this matter? And what role does affordable housing supply have in the housing crisis that we have in the UK? In part two, we look at the infrastructure levy specifically, and in part three, we look at what wider reforms might make a difference in terms of improving this situation. We can see from part one how there are a very large number of households on local authorities' waiting lists for social housing, currently at around 1.2 million. This is higher in London, as can be seen, but it's still very high across all other areas in the country. We can also see that there are a large number of households and children in temporary accommodation. Currently, around 120,000 children each day are living in temporary accommodation. We can see that overcrowding over many years has been worsening in the social rented and private rented sectors. And so we can see that there's a need for investment here. We can also see that from the effect this has on public finances. We're very soon to cross the threshold of £30 billion annually spent on housing benefits. Some of that is recycled into investment into social housing and affordable housing through housing associations and local authorities, but also much of that goes to private rented sector landlords, some of whom are obviously providing excellent services, but it's not recycling the funds by design into social and affordable housing. So we think it'd be better if we could invest more in affordable housing and ensure that those funds, that we don't need to spend as much in the future on this. We've also looked at key worker housing affordability, and as you can see, in many areas, this has not been doing well. In recent years, we've seen declines across the board in each region and across many different key worker professions. We can see that the number of social rented housing tenures, which have been added to the stock over a very long period of time, has been coming down. We've been replacing this with less affordable tenures over time. And CSJ polling has shown that less than 1 in 4 people believe that the government's definition of affordable housing is truly affordable to local people. In general, the government is trying to improve the system of collecting land value uplift and returning some of that value to the public good when new developments are made. There are two systems for this, and they're called Section 106 and the Community Infrastructure Levy. Section 106 is a complicated system that has attracted a lot of criticism because of the way in which viability assessments have been incorporated into that system and led to a lot of unpredictability and uncertainty. The Community Infrastructure Levy, on the other hand, has the benefit of more certainty, but it's not usable everywhere because it hasn't been applied, and it can't be used for affordable housing either. So the infrastructure levy aims, quite rightly, to improve this system by increasing the amount of certainty that the system has, and therefore hopefully helping to bring forward more development. However, we are concerned that for a number of reasons, this levy could make the system worse rather than better. So let's look briefly at some of those key issues. Number one, we think the definition of affordable housing used in the bill is too wide. We'd like to see that narrowed in scope. Number two, we think that the way in which affordable housing will be measured and regulated is currently very unclear. We'd like to see more clarity over that, more of that placed into primary legislation rather than regulations. We're also concerned that by basing future baselines on past performance over a period of time where performance has not been good, that we could be entrenching poor performance into the future rather than being more aspirational and ambitious for our system of affordable housing delivery. The third issue is that we're concerned that on-site affordable housing may decline as a result of this intervention. The government has said that there will be a right to require on-site affordable housing, but this isn't in the bill, and it should be coming in regulations, but that hasn't been seen. And it's not a requirement to require either, from what we can tell. So we'd like to see greater reassurances about this. The fourth issue is more reassurance that 100% affordable housing sites will be exempt from levies and therefore not disincentivized. The fifth issue is that the government has said that receipt funds from the levy can be spent on things other than infrastructure. We're concerned that, as you can see, local authorities' budgets are already very stretched. And if we open this door, then we won't be seeing the levels of funding and investment that we need into affordable housing and community infrastructure when developments are being made in appropriate ways. We think there's a much greater role for community-led housing, and we make suggestions as to how the bill might do this and how the levy system as it's introduced might improve things. And finally, a major issue, we show how in areas which the government has prioritized for levelling up, land values, residential land values, are much lower than in other areas of the country. They're concentrated in lower areas, as you can see from that first box plot on this graph. That means that the charging schedules for the levy will have to be less stringent, and therefore less in terms of levy receipt will be returned to local authorities to invest in affordable housing. We think that there needs to be a considerable compensatory fiscal mechanism to ensure that those areas receive the funding that they need. As we can see, over many years, we've not seen the levels of government investment into affordable housing capital that we have seen in the past, and we think that that needs to be remedied and brought forward. The government has been increasing this in recent years, to its credit. We'd like to see that developed, brought forward, and boosted in the coming years. We think there are further areas for reform, which we touch on in the report: a more digitized, more modern planning system, better investment for local planning authorities so that they have more resources, more staffing, more time, more capacity, better use of public land so that the social value of social housing is properly recognized, and we can use public land for the good of providing affordable homes, a greater scope for community-led housing, including better support for them to make, for groups doing community-led housing to make applications. And finally, the government has been reviewing the system of compulsory purchase and land assembly, and we're hoping for them to look at how affordable housing delivery might be improved through that. So that's a key summary of the key points in the report. We make many recommendations and we summarize a lot of data. Please go ahead and take a look at that report, and if you have any questions or would like to be in touch, by all means, feel free to follow up with us. Thank you very much.